federal agencies responsible for administering Social Security benefits initiated a new round of official mail activity on December 29th, triggering widespread concern among retirees, disabled workers, survivors, and low-income recipients nationwide, as the notices signal another potential adjustment to payment timing, benefit processing, and administrative sequencing tied to recent statutory and budgetary changes. The alerts are not random, and they are not cosmetic. They are linked to structural pressure points inside the Social Security Administration, including cash flow timing under the Treasury's payment calendar, statutory cost of living recalculations, and congressional mandates that alter how and when funds are dispersed. At the same time, these notices intersect with ongoing stimulus-related mechanisms still embedded in federal systems, meaning millions of households are now facing a layered set of changes that affect not only how much they receive, but when they receive it and how reliably those payments arrive. Before continuing, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss critical updates as this situation continues to evolve and new federal actions are confirmed. The December 29th SSA mail alert campaign is operationally significant because it coincides with the end-of-quarter fiscal reconciliation period, when the Treasury Department finalizes outflows, adjusts short-term borrowing, and synchronizes benefit payments with federal cash management protocols. Social Security disbursements, which exceed 70 million payments per month and represent more than $1 trillion annually, are tightly scheduled around these constraints. Even a minor statutory change or administrative recalibration can cascade through the system, shifting deposit dates by days or, in some cases, weeks. The notices being sent now reflect that reality. They are not uniform letters. Some recipients are receiving notices related to payment date sequencing, others regarding verification requirements, and others concerning adjustments that may temporarily delay or advance deposits depending on eligibility category and enrollment timing. At the core of the issue is the interaction between payment schedules and legal mandates. Social Security payments are typically staggered based on birth date for retirement and disability beneficiaries, while supplemental security income follows a separate calendar tied to the first of the month. When Congress passes legislation that affects benefit calculations, funding offsets, or administrative rules, the SSA must reprogram payment systems that rely on legacy infrastructure. These systems process transactions in batch cycles, often days in advance. When a change is introduced late in the fiscal cycle, the agency may be forced to adjust the outward-facing schedule rather than re-engineer the back-end logic in real time. This is why recipients are again seeing language indicating adjusted payment timing or temporary scheduling changes. It is not a clerical issue. It is a systems-level constraint. The economic implications are substantial. For households dependent on Social Security as their primary or sole income source, even a short delay can trigger missed rent payments, utility shutoff risks, or increased reliance on high-interest credit. According to federal data, more than 40% of elderly beneficiaries rely on Social Security for at least 90% of their income. When payment dates shift, the impact is immediate and localized, particularly in rural counties and urban districts with high concentrations of fixed-income households. The December 29th notices therefore function as both an administrative warning and a risk signal, alerting recipients to adjust short-term financial planning while the agency absorbs new policy directives. Overlaying this situation is the continued presence of stimulus-related mechanisms within federal payment systems. While broad-based stimulus checks are not being issued at the same scale as earlier emergency programs, targeted credits, retroactive adjustments, and recovery-related offsets remain active. These include refundable tax credits, delayed reconciliation payments, and special adjustments for beneficiaries who were underpaid during previous cycles. When these mechanisms intersect with Social Security disbursements, the result can be irregular deposit amounts or split payments that arrive separately from standard monthly benefits. The SSA mail alerts reference this indirectly, often using language about additional review or payment adjustment, which for recipients translates into uncertainty about exact deposit amounts. Geographically, the impact is uneven. States with higher proportions of retirees, such as Florida, Arizona, Texas, and Pennsylvania, are seeing a higher volume of inquiries and reported confusion following the mail alerts. In these regions, local economies are tightly coupled to benefit inflows. Retail spending, prescription drug purchases, and even municipal tax receipts can fluctuate when Social Security payments shift. In contrast, states with younger populations may see less immediate disruption, though families supporting elderly relatives are still affected indirectly. This geographic imbalance amplifies political pressure on federal agencies to stabilize payment schedules quickly, even when structural constraints limit how fast changes can be implemented. From an operational standpoint, the SSA is managing these changes under conditions of sustained resource strain. Staffing levels remain below pre-pandemic benchmarks, field offices are handling backlogs in claims processing, and call centers are operating at or near capacity. When a new round of mail alerts goes out, it predictably triggers a surge in inquiries, further stretching agency resources. This feedback loop is one reason why notices are often written in generalized language, avoiding precise dates until systems are fully synchronized. Precision too early can create liability if further adjustments become necessary. As a result, recipients are left navigating a gray zone between official guidance and practical financial needs. The strategic consequences extend beyond individual households. Social Security is not just a social program, it is a macroeconomic stabilizer. Monthly benefit payments inject consistent liquidity into the economy, smoothing consumption during downturns and supporting baseline demand. When payment timing becomes unpredictable, even temporarily, that stabilizing function weakens. Economists track these disruptions closely, particularly during periods of inflationary pressure or tightening credit conditions. A delayed payment cycle can reduce short-term consumer spending, which in turn affects small businesses and local employment. Multiply that effect across millions of recipients, and the aggregate impact becomes measurable at the national level. Politically, repeated changes to Social Security payment timing erode trust in federal institutions. Even when adjustments are legally justified and technically necessary, the perception of instability can fuel anxiety and misinformation. This is why the December 29th mail alert is being framed by some observers as more than a routine notice. It is seen as part of a pattern of incremental disruption, where beneficiaries feel they are constantly being asked to adapt to new rules without sufficient lead time. That perception matters, especially as lawmakers debate future reforms, funding mechanisms, and potential benefit adjustments. The stimulus angle adds another layer of complexity. Any mention of stimulus in official communications immediately raises expectations among recipients, even if the actual policy impact is narrow or conditional. Recovery-related credits and adjustments are often misunderstood as new payments, rather than reconciliations of past entitlements. When these processes overlap with Social Security changes, the risk of confusion increases. Beneficiaries may misinterpret adjusted deposits as errors or, conversely, assume future payments will include similar amounts. The SSA mail alerts attempt to preempt this by emphasizing review processes and eligibility criteria, but the effectiveness of that messaging is limited by the technical nature of the underlying policies. From a cause and effect perspective, the sequence is clear. Legislative or budgetary action introduces new requirements. The SSA must translate those requirements into operational rules. Payment systems are adjusted, sometimes imperfectly due to timing constraints. Notices are sent to manage expectations and reduce legal exposure. Recipients react, altering spending and seeking clarification. The broader economy absorbs the shock in small but cumulative ways. Each step feeds into the next, creating a chain of consequences that extends far beyond the original policy decision. Critical points bear repeating. Payment dates are changing again, not because of arbitrary decisions, but because the system is under sustained structural pressure. Notices are being sent now because the end-of-year fiscal window leaves little margin for error. Stimulus-related mechanisms are still active and can affect deposit amounts and timing. And uncertainty remains high, because further adjustments are possible as agencies reconcile data and funding flows. These are not isolated issues. They are interconnected components of a larger administrative and economic landscape. Looking ahead, the key variable is not whether additional changes will occur, but how extensive they will be and how clearly they will be communicated. If fiscal negotiations introduce new mandates, or if economic conditions force further recalibration. Beneficiaries may see additional notices in the coming weeks. Conversely, if systems stabilize and funding flows normalize, the December 29th alerts may represent the last major adjustment for this cycle. At this stage, however, that outcome is not guaranteed. What is clear is that millions of recipients are operating in an environment of elevated uncertainty, where even foundational programs like Social Security are subject to shifting timelines and evolving rules. The long-term implications for household security, economic stability, and institutional trust remain unresolved.